So our agenda today, as mentioned to you last week during our quiz, is we will have our chapter 11 to 13 no, discussion. So actually, yung chapter 11 and 12, likely lang naman siya. So that's the reason why I'm still seeking if we can finish also yung chapter 13 para next week. So we can also finish our chapter 14 and our last chapter will be 15. No? Then before we have the foundation week, I don't know if magkakaroon pa ba ng klase nun. Pero that's the reason why also I'm preparing na matapos natin before that foundation week para after that foundation week we are now preparing or we are preparing for the final exam na lang. Okay? And then today, let's have a attendance muna. Okay? Sige, Abbas.
Present po.
By the way, class, clear ba yung tunog ko? Malino ba ako sa side nyo? Anyone?
Audible po.
Okay, thank you. Sige. Aguila,
Present po.
Balita,
Present po.
Barion,
Present po.
okay. Binamera,
Present po.
Prasula, Prasula wala. Okay. Antos,
Present po.
Antre,
Present po, sir.
Karingal,
Present po.
Sipilyo,
Present po.
Cristobal,
Present po.
De La Cruz, De La Cruz, si De La Cruz, Delara,
Present po.
Domingo, Domingo, wala. Para nakita ko to kanina. Dudas,
Present po.
Esmeralda,
Present po.
Gambol, Gambol, Garcia,
Present po.
Jamero,
Present po.
Javier, Javier, wala. Nakasa,
Present po.
Librea,
Present po, sir.
Dominguez,
Present po, sir.
Magbuo,
Present po, sir. Present.
Magnayad,
Present po.
Manzano, Masakayan,
Present po.
Medrana, Medrana, wala.
Sir, nag-reconnect lang daw po.
We are going to allocate this flexible budget, which is we are going to consider the same activity level between the actual and this flexible budget. No? So our objective then dito kay chapter 11 is we are going if the manager or the operations here is really good in terms of controlling the activities. This is the first, and then the second thing is if we are good in controlling the cost. Okay? So before we proceed, what we had pala from the chapter 10, no? Ano yung mga understanding, what is your learnings? What are your learnings from the chapter 10 discussions? Anyone from the class? Anyone? Can tell me what are your learnings from the chapter 10 discussions? Anyone? Hello? Anong natatandaan natin from the previous chapter? Or even chapter 9, okay? Kasi we are going to recapitulate it kasi nga hindi na siya part of our finals exam, but still part of the discussions, okay? So, anyone, what is your learnings from the previous chapter, most especially in chapter 10? Allow me to call somebody. Samantha. Masakayan ba to? Tama ba? Hello? Hello? Wala na agad siya. Umalis na. Samantha, tama ba?
Yes po, sir.
Yeah. So any learnings? Any key informations that you got from the previous chapter? Let's have a quick recap lang muna. Okay? So, would you like to share some words? Samantha? Can you unmute yourself?
Okay, sir. Yung po, akin pong natatandaan na ating tinakal last time is, ako maalala.
Okay.
Ala, sir, nakalimutan ko.
Anyone? Anything?
Ito pala, sir. I'm sorry. Yung pong,
Ano? Okay.
yan pong sa material variances.
Okay, MPB. Sige. So, what is your understanding regarding the material balances? When we say material balances, ano yung pinag-uusapan natin basically? So, give me some key takeaways or key information that we are going to consider under the material price variances. So, makalimutan na. Brasula. Brasula.
Yes po, sir.
Yeah. Anything would you like to share? Neglect natin. Anything? Okay, Miss Delara and Mr. Pabunan willing to save you. So, let's have Mr. Apat pala. Sige, let's have Miss Delara muna. And then followed by Esmeralda, Pabunan, and then Rupiol. Okay? So, Delara. Yeah. Sipilio again. Yeah, same. Delara. Nawala ka yata.
Sir, hindi daw po nagana yung mic ni Veron. Sunod na lang daw po siya.
Okay, sige. Sige, let's have Mr. Pabunan.
Sir, yung ano po, yung MCE or the manufacturing cycle efficiency, yung formula niya po is process time over throughput time po.
Okay, correct.
Okay
So,
po yung
thank you.
tandaan.
So, let's have Mr.
Thank you po.
Mr. Pabunan. Let's have Mr. Esmeralda. Ayan, yan ang gusto ko. Active.
Sir, yung
Yan.
sa pagkuha naman po ng throughput time na PIMQ po, which is yung PIP po ay yung process, yung I po is idle time, yung M po is motion, and then yung Q po is work Q po.
Okay, thank you. Sige. Let's have Mr. Rubion.
Sir, doon naman po sa chapter 9 po, pinag-aralan po natin doon yung about po sa budgeting na kung saan kailangan po nating maging about po siya sa monetary terms na kailangan po natin mag-allocate ng budget sa mga project po na gagawin throughout the time po. Tapos ay pinag-aralan din po natin doon sa chapter 9 yung involvement po ng from pinakamababa yung low management papunta po sa middle hanggang sa top management po. Tapos sa chapter 10 naman po ay pinag-aralan po natin yung pagkuha po ng material labor at saka nung variances po na kapag mas mataas po yung standard price or yung standard quantity kaysa po dun sa actual, makakuha po tayo ng negative na sagot kung saan ito po ay favorable.
Okay. Thank you. Very good. Followed by Miss Sipilio?
Sir, ang natatandaan ko po dun sa chapter 9 sa in-example natin is yung pong sa sales budget tsaka po yung expected cash collections. Sa sales budget po is magbe-base po dun sa, ang pagko-compute po ng sales budget is magbe-base po dun sa given and kung ano lang po yung hinahanap na months ay hanggang dun lang po yung isosolve. Ita-times lang po yung sa given at saka po yung selling price para po makuha yung budget, sales budget. Tapos expected cash collections naman po ay magbe-base din po sa given kung ilang percent po ang i-allocate sa current month at sa following month sale po para po makuha yung total cash collections. Yun lang po.
Okay, very good. Okay. Next, Miss Delara.
Sir, yun sa akin naman po is yun sa chapter 10 po. Ang naaalala ko po diniscuss dun is yun pong sa quantity standards at sa price standards po, which is yung quantity standards po, parang specify kung magkano po yung input or how much po an input should be na gagamitin po to make a product or para po makaprovide ng isang service. Tapos yung price standards naman po specify kung gaano karami or kung how much should be paid for each unit po ng mga input po.
Okay, thank you. Sige. Next, Miss Katrina Sumatsan.
Sir, ang natutunan ko po sa chapter 10 po ay aside po sa computations and formula ay yung mga taong responsible po ng mga materials and labor variances. Sa material variances po, ang people responsible po doon ay si production manager and si purchasing manager since need po nila mag-communicate na dalawa para po sa materials. And then for labor variances naman po ay ang parang person in charge po dito ay yung production manager po since siya po yung mismo nasa production po na nakakita po ng labor na nagaganap po sa production. Yun lang.
Okay, thank you. Followed by Miss Binamera.
Ayan. Sir, ang natatandaan ko po sa chapter 10 is yung sa pagkuha po ng variances, meron po siyang tatlong format. Which is yung una niyo pong diniscuss sa amin na line by line, then followed by yung naka-present po na mga formulas doon na factored equation, and then meron din po kayong tinuro na yung 3-column na format. And sa tatlong yun po, mas prefer ko po dun yung una po na-discuss, which is yung line by line. Mas nagamit ko po siya nung quiz.
Okay, thank you. And then lastly, Miss Javier.
Sir, yung sa natatandaan ko po sa chapter 9 discussion is yun pong hindi lang po allocation po ng budget ang meron po sa chapter 9. Nandito din po yung allocation or yung accounts receivable po and accounts payable po na nare-receive po ng company in terms po sa budgeting.
Okay, so you are talking about the cash reimbursement and also cash disbursement. Okay, so just to add up, not just to complete the full recap, that what we had from chapter 9 and chapter 10. No? So we also tackle the treatment on how we calculate the variances together with the fixed manufacturing overhead. So initially kasi meron tayong the direct materials, the direct labor, and the variable manufacturing overhead specifically. Then afterwards, if we translate into the fixed manufacturing overhead, we are calling those budget. No, we are calling those budget variance. No, and then followed by those other variances to come up with this fixed manufacturing overhead, which is part of the calculations. So basically, we have different treatment lang talaga kay fixed manufacturing overhead. As we all know, that fixed manufacturing overhead is a kind of huge indirect cost, and then this is not controllable and not measurable from what we had or from the resource allocation that we had from the previous discussions then. No? Okay? So let's start with chapter 11. So thank you everyone for having your inputs for this chapter 9 and 10 discussion. So the good thing now is tapos na tayo sa chapter 9 and 10. So this will be not included in our finals. Okay? So most probably yung ating chapter 11, 12 and 13, majority of the discussion is more on terminologies. And then chapter 14 and 15, there are some calculations. So it's kind of giving a big impact din sa atin na itong chapter 10 na mahaba talaga, ay chapter 9 na mahaba talaga is hindi na natin siya may kasama sa finance, which is really good naman, no? Para maging efficient yung ating magiging review for review practice for the upcoming weeks for the finance. Okay? So as mentioned kanina, si flexible budget is a kind of intersection between the static and also between the standard and also the actual, no? Because we are depending on the actual allocation in terms of activity level. Okay? So let's have this flexible budget using the overhead analysis. So this in this case, no, yung standard natin is also known as dito static budget, no. So static budgets and performance report. It is static budget are prepared or planned for a single planned level of activity, meaning we are talking about a single level of production, no, production volume, no, a single level of production. Ibig sabihin, if we are talking about a single product, or sabihin natin, we are talking about a single on the Civic lang. So it is an operations only specific for that on the Civic product lang. No, it is totally different with the operation with the Honda CRV, Honda PRV, or some of the Honda products pa. So it's a kind of single level of production lang. Okay. So it's also, we are also talking about the product volume o yung productivity volume natin, which is kumbaga ano yung requirement natin, based on our customer demand or customer requirement. This is the actual versus our static capability based on the forecast na ito yung kaya natin or capacity natin for us to meet this demand. Okay? So performance evaluation is difficult when actual activity differs from the planned level of activity. Okay? So ito naman daw, si static budgets, once we compare with actual cost, it is really like comparing with the apple and orange. No? Kumbaga parang it's really total, or it's a kind of different talaga. No? Kumbaga, meron tayo, pag sinabi natin static, it's kind of forecasted and projected numbers, while the actual is actual allocation. So kumbaga, meron tayong differences talaga or discrepancy talaga pag pinag-compare mo yung in-expect mo lang versus dun sa reality mo. Okay? Next is flexible budget. So we have this flexible budget may be prepared for any activity in activity level in the relevant range, show costs that should have been incurred at the actual 227, show costs that should have been incurred at the actual level of activity, enables apples to apples cost comparisons, reveal variances related to cost control, improve performance evaluation. So, dito kung flexible budget, kumbaga kung si static budget, we are talking about a single level of production volume. A flexible budget is a kind of either a multiple level of production volume or a kind of adjusted level of production volume versus dun sa actual volume natin. Okay? So let's have an example for us to see the performance with regards to the static budget. Okay, so we have this Cisco problem. So we have that given here. So our machine hours is 10,000 for the static budget. So our variable cost, wait lang, labas ko lang ang mahiwagang pen. Variable cost is equivalent to $40,000. Then indirect materials is 30,000 and 5,000 for the power. Then fixed cost is equivalent to depreciation of $12,000 and insurance is excuse me. Insurance is $2,000. So total overhead cost natin is equivalent to $89,000. No, yun yung given natin. But this is the actual result. So actual result natin, we have this 8,000 machine hours. Variable cost natin is indirect. Labor cost is 34,000 and the indirect materials is 25,500 and then power is 3,800. So to give us a total fixed cost of 12,000 plus 2,050. So total overhead cost natin is $77,350. So let's see the variances. Okay. So machine hours equivalent to variances natin is 2,000 unfavorable. So bakit po unfavorable? Mas malaki po si standard kaysa kay actual. Ibig sabihin, mas mababa po si actual kaysa standard. Kasi we treat this machine hours as our capability to generate revenue. No? Kumbaga, itong machine hours natin is our capacity to create product. No? Meron kang 10,000 hours para makapag-create ng product. Kaso, in terms of actual, 8,000 lang yung na-consume. So, meaning, mas kokonti yung product na produce dito. And by that case, mas kokonti din yung revenue generation natin. So this is a kind of variances that we are treating the same as what we did from the profit or the income. So, unfavorable kasi mas mababa po si actual kaysa kay static. Okay? Let's have these variances for the variable cost. So, expenses, aware naman na tayo dito kapag favorable at unfavorable. So, we have mas mataas po si static kaysa kay actual. So, meaning favorable cases for all of those. We have 6,000 for 5 and 1, 2. Okay? Then fixed cost, we have 12,000. So, this is 0 given dito. Pero, in some of the articles and some of the expenses, some of the presentation, this is also considered unfavorable. Pero dito, undefined siya, no? So this is also considered unfavorable. Kasi bakit sir kailangan natin, bakit siya pwedeng i-consider yan unfavorable? Kasi ang pinag-uusapan po natin dyan is gastos. No? The more na mas makatupid tayo, the more na mas favorable sa atin. Ngayon, sakto lang, hindi din tayo nakatipid. So meaning, it is also considered na unfavorable din. No? Okay? Insurance, we have unfavorable cases kasi mas mataas naman po sa actual kaysa kay standard or static na. So we have a total overhead cost of 11,650 favorable. Moving forward. So aware naman tayo kung paano natin nakuha yung mga favorable variances na yan, kung paano natin siya i-define. Since cost variances are favorable, have we done a good job controlling costs? Now, ang tanong, tayo ba is magaling na ba o nagawa ba natin yung part natin ng maganda sa pag-control ng gastos? Ang sagot ay cannot. No, hindi pa natin masabi. We cannot define it right now. Because I don't think, sabi ni engineer dito, I don't think I can answer that question. No, using the static budget. Actual activity is below budgeted activity.
You may unplug the charger now.
No. So, shouldn't have variable cost be lower if actual activity is lower. So, hindi natin siya pwedeng i-compare kasi nga, hindi po sila pantay na activity level. No? Kumaga parang pinag-compare natin yung dalawang operations in the different capacity. So, hindi natin masasabi kung if we are still or if we are good in terms of controlling the cost. Okay? So, ang kailangan natin ngayon is, kasi in order for us to respond this question, how much of the favorable cost variance is due to lower activity or activity control natin, and how much is due to good cost control. So dito, pinag-uusapan naman natin, paano natin siya magawa. So ang answer is, we must flex the budget to the actual level of activity. Dapat compute natin yung budget, the same budget pa din with the same, makompute natin yung budget with the same actual level of activity. Okay? Kaya dito papasok si flexible budget. Okay? So to flex a budget, we need to know that total variable cost can change in direct proportion to change in activity. So we are aware of that. No? Kumbaga, the more that tumaas ng activity level, the more natataas din yung ating variable cost. While the total fixed cost remains unchanged within the relevant range, meaning the more na tumaas yung ating activity level, pantay lang po yung fixed cost natin. Ang bumababa dyan is yung fixed cost rate natin. Okay? Preparing a flexible budget. So let's prepare flexible budget for Cisco. So this is our flexible budget. Now, so we have this given. Now, so we have 8,000 and this is our static given. Itong 10,000 na to is our static and this is our flexible budget. So we are controlling or we are calculating depending on the lower than that and higher than that of the static budget. So lower than that, which is our actual right now, is 8,000, and then higher than that is 12,000. So using the rating or cost formula per hour, like just to get this formula per hour, we need to use the given from the flexible or from the static budget. So we have this $40,000 divided by the 10,000 hours given is $4 per hour. So same as well with the different cost formula. So we have $3, 0.50 to give us total of variable cost of 7.50. So let's calculate for the 8,000 hours. No? So using this number, we can get this $32,000, $24,000, and $4,000 to give us total variable cost of $60,000. Okay. So fixed cost, let's have this. We have 12,000 and 2,000 to give us total fixed cost of 14,000, which is the same. No? Kasi nga fixed cost yan. Okay. Then total overhead cost natin is $74,000. So copying the number from the static budget, we have this $89,000. Then let's complete for the $12,000. We have $48,000 for the indirect labor, $36,000 indirect material, $6,000 for the power, so a total of $90,000, and then fixed cost of $12,000 depreciation, then insurance of $2,000, then total fixed cost po natin is $14,000, so to give us total of $104,000 for the 12 hours activity level. So let's see the performance of the flexible budget. Okay. So this is the flexible budget. So this is the flexible budget, and this is the actual results. As you can see, we are going to use the same activity level, which is 8,000. Okay. So we have 32,000 for the indirect labor. So as you can see, our variances is 2,000 unfavorable. Kasi po, in terms of expenses, mas mataas po sa actual kaysa kay standard. Okay? Let's have another one. 24,000, mas mataas sa actual. Variances po natin is 1,500, unfavorable naman po siya. Then for the power, we have $4,000. Then actual result natin is 3,800. So variances po natin is $200 favorable po. Mas mataas naman po si standard kaysa kay actual. So meaning, sa case na to, nakatipid po tayo ng kuryente, ng power. Okay? So total variable cost natin in terms of variances is 3,300 unfavorable. Okay? So fixed cost. So depreciation, we have 0. And insurance, we have $50. So total fixed cost is we have 50 unfavorable. So total overhead cost natin is 3,350 unfavorable. So my question right now, are we done, or did we done a good controlling the cost, or did we control the cost efficiently and effectively? Na-control ba natin yung cost ng maayos? Anyone from the class? From that given scenario, from that given situation, na-control ba natin yung cost? Anyone? Santos? Hello, Sophia?
Yes po, sir.
Yeah. From that given problem, na-control ba natin kaya yung cost na maayos? Hindi.
I think na-control naman po natin kasi nakasave po tayo sa
Nakasave tayo sa in terms of kuryente. Pero in terms of overall, sa tingin mo, na-control ba natin yung cost o hindi? In terms of overall cases, ito pakita ko ulit sa'yo.
Hindi po ako sure, pero I think hindi po kasi based from the total po, siya po unfavorable, and yung small budget is mas mababa kasi sa actual result.
Correct, no? So, thank you, Ms. Cantos, no? So, dito sa case na to, ibig sabihin, by aligning this activity level, dito lang lumabas na hindi pala tayo magaling mag-control ng cost. Kasi, pinagparehas na natin yung activity level. So, by that, we can align with the resource allocation also, no? And then lumabas na ang dami unfavorable cases. So, majority of the answer is unfavorable. So, meaning, we are not good in terms of controlling the cost. Okay? So remember, the question, how much of the total balance is due to lower activity and how much is due to cost control? So we are talking about how much is the total balance is due to lower activity, which is the difference between the static and the flexible budget. And then how much is the due to cost control? No? Kumbaga, ito yung difference between the flexible budget and also the actual budget. Okay? So this is our case. No? So, kay static budget and actual result, kung mapapansin mo, favorable siya pero malayo kasi differences nila in terms of our activity level. Okay? Pero let's see. So, let's see kung overhead variances natin if we inject this flexible budget. So, meaning, in terms of activity control, this $15,000 favorable variance is due to lower activity. So, meaning we are good in terms of activity control. But in terms of cost control, this 3,350 means that we have or that we had a poor cost control. Okay? So the measure of activity, a critical choice. So three important factors in selecting activity based for an overhead flexible budget. So first is the activity based and overall activity-based variable overhead should causally related, no? Kumbaga, dapat yung activity-based natin, yung mga cost pools na meron tayo, it is dapat merely related to our variable overhead. Kasi we are talking about indirect expenses, no? It is important na itong ating mga activity-based ito is naka-align na sa ating mga variable overhead categories. Okay? Para for us to calculate efficiently and effectively, no? We can also measure those expenses around this indirect or those overhead budgets. Okay, so activity base should not be expressed in dollars or other currency. No, so initially we are uh, visualizing this activity base from the previous chapters, chapter 8, I think. So we have this. We have this cost pool, so we have activity-based costing system na kinategorize natin in terms of customer relations, ordering point, or some of the quality requirement, some of the indirect expenses together with the list expenses, related expenses, and then etc. No? Kumaga dito, by that activity cost goals, we also emphasize those activity measurement natin kung paano ba natin sinusukat to in terms of customer relations. We are talking about the customer inputs or customer measurement natin, how many customer increase or customer relations that we are going that we got from that measures. Same as well with the ordering point. So how many orders that we increase or how many orders that giving an impact to our expenses and some of the expenses. Kumbaga, it's a kind of cost driver din. No? Parang tinitingnan natin siya, it's a kind of cost driver. Kumbaga, example, mga direct materials natin, direct labor. Paano ba natin sinisil out, minemeasure tong direct labor natin in terms of hours. No? Kumbaga, ilang direct labor hours o ilang labor requirement yung kailangan natin for us to produce that product. So we are talking about hours. Okay? Activity base should be simple and easily understood. Ibig sabihin, example, if we are talking about the customer relationship expenses, so dapat it will not be combined with the supplier. Kumbaga, it is easily understood na hindi siya dapat a kind of congested or a kind of combined to other expenses. No? So variable overhead variance is a closer look. So if flexible budget is based on actual hours, only spending variances can be computed, while if flexible budget is based on standard hours, both spending and then efficiency variances can be computed. Okay. Variable overhead variances. So example. So we have Kelacos actual production for the period of required $3,200. 3,200 standard machine hours. Actual variable overhead natin incurred for the period was $6,740. Actual machine hours worked were 3,300. So the standard variable overhead cost per machine hour is $2. Now compute the variable overhead spending variance first using the actual hours. Then use standard hours allowed to calculate the variable overhead efficiency variance. So we have this spending variance. No. So aware naman tayo dito, no? So for us to get this variable overhead variances, we have to get first this spending variance using the actual variable overhead incurred minus the flexible budget for variable overhead at actual hours. So as you can see, nabanggit kanina, if you are going to get or use the actual hours, you can only compute for the spending variance because from this case or from the spending variance, the commonality is the actual hours. Okay. Next, this is the from the given. So we have the spending variance of $140 unfavorable. No? Kasi mas mataas po yung ating actual no, kaysa kay flexible budget natin. Okay? So spending balance results from paying more or less than expected overhead items and rate and from excessive usage of overhead items. So spending balance is kind of related also with the rate variance natin. No? Kapag key rate variance, we have a commonality of actual hours, then we are taking the differences between the actual rate and the standard rate natin for us to get those rating is the rating inaccuracy or rating variances natin. No? So it's kind of related with the rating variance natin. So variable overhead variances natin. So afterwards, we can also get this efficiency variance. So aware naman din tayo sa formula na yan. So by that, from the efficiency variance, we can get this $2,000. So $200 coming from the 6,600 minus the 6,400. No? So meaning, at the given point, na mas in terms of actual hours and the standard hours differentiation, no, mas malaki po sa actual hours kaysa kay standard hours. That's the reason why we have these unfavorable cases. So efficiency variance controlled by managing the overhead cost. So dito kay efficiency variance, it's a kind also of quantity bias. Then so we are taking those commonality with the standard rating natin, and then taking the differences between the actual hours and also the standard hours natin. So activity-based costing and flexible budget. It is unlikely that all variable overhead will be driven by a single activity. Yes, because itong ating activity-based costing, as you can see, no, and the flexible budget, as you can see, kumbaga, kinumpute natin itong mga activity-based costing natin for all of those indirect and supporting expenses, not just a single segment of the single segment. Let's say, for example, you have this for the molding operations lang or for the cutting operations lang, but also you are taking those indirect expenses for the whole business na kasama tong mga customer relations for the ordering point or for the distribution and also some of the shipment costs or some of the indirect expenses pa natin. No? So activity-based costing can be used when multiple activity bases drive variable overhead costs. Okay? So, which is what we had from the chapter 8. So overhead rates and overhead analysis. So, Recall that overhead costs are assigned to products and services using predetermined overhead rate. So aware naman kayo kung paano natin kinocompute si predetermined overhead, which is the same as we had from the chapter 3 pa, no, chapter 3 pa, okay? So we have this predetermined overhead rating of calculation, no? So the predetermined overhead is, we can get this from overhead from the flexible budget for the denominator level of activity, which is also known as our total manufacturing overhead cost, divided by the denominator level of activity hour allocation base. So overhead rates and overhead analysis. The predetermined overhead rate can be broken down into fixed and variable components, which is the same what we had from naman sa ating contribution format. No? Kumbaga dito, we are allowing to get the visibility between the variable expenses and the fixed expenses in order for us to emphasize the contribution margin. Same as well dito, no? For the overhead rates, we are taking the differences also with the variable component and also those fixed components. Okay? So normal versus standard cost system. So in normal cost system, overhead is applied to work in process based on the actual number of hours worked in the period. While in a standard cost system, overhead is applied to work in process based on the standard hours allowed for the output of the period. So dito, kung mapapansin mo, in normal cost system, ito yung mga previous discussions natin. No? Normal cost system is a kind of, we are using the actual number of hours na actual allocation na to. While si standard cost system, we are taking into consideration those setting of standards. We are also emphasizing those self-imposed budgeting, no, prior to the actual operations. Kung mapapansin nyo din, so yung normal cost system natin is kinda, plus baka magdi-disconnect pala ako. Mag-online ako sa GC. Tapos, pa-chat na lang ulit ako. O pa-chat na lang ako sa GC natin if ever ma-disconnect kasi I'm not confident with our network dito sa atin. Sa because yung minsan na-disconnect. Pero check ko na din kayo kung nandyan ba kayo. Baka kasi na-disconnect tayo. Anyway, sige. So in normal cost steps, at kung mapansin nyo, ang behavior niya is a kind of confident, no? Kumbaga, confidential in terms of actual allocation. No? You have lot of consumption capacity dito kay normal cost system. While si standard cost system is kind naman na conservative naman siya. No? They are really taking the security, no, na magkaroon mo ng standard setup before we have these actual allocations. No? So fixed overhead variances, so nabanggit ko kanina, no, sa our recap. So kapag pinag-usapan na natin si fixed overhead variances, nagbabago na yung terminology natin. So we have this budget variances from the difference between the actual fixed overhead incurred minus the fixed overhead budget. And then volume variances is the difference between fixed overhead budget minus the fixed overhead applied. So, overhead rates and overhead analysis example. So, Colapos prepared this flexible budget for overhead. So, we have this machine hours, 3,000 and 4,000. No. So, total variable overhead natin is 6,000 and 8,000. So, variable overhead rate natin is we are going to compute. Then, total fixed overhead natin is 9,000 parehas. So, let's calculate overhead rates. So, for the variable overhead, so total variable overhead is divided by the machine hours. So, the rate is constant. So, bakit po constant yung overhead natin? Overhead rate natin. Kasi, as we all know, this variable expenses is depending on our activity level. The more na tumaas to, tataas din po yung ating expenses. Gawin mo itong 4,000, magiging 8,000 to. And it will include the same rating natin na 2. Okay? Gawin mo itong 5,000, mangyayari itong 10,000. No? Kasi nakadepende po siya kay activity level natin. Unlike kay total fixed cost, na ang nagbabago po is yung rate natin. No? Ito po, kahit tumaas to, same pa rin to. That's the reason why tumaas man yung activity level natin, bumababa po yung ating fixed overhead rate natin. No? Pagtaas na activity levels, pagbaba ng ating fixed overhead rate. Kasi po, fixed lang po ito. Okay? So, the total predetermined overhead is the sum of the fixed and variable overhead rates for a given activity level. So, fixed overhead variances, you have this Kulakos actual production required for 3,200 standard machine hours. Actual fixed overhead was $8,000, $8,450. The predetermined overhead rate is based on the 3,000 machine hours. Okay, so variable. So overhead variances. So now let's turn our attention to calculating the fixed overhead variances. So aware naman din kayo kung paano natin ito compute, no? So we have the budget variance of 550 favorable kasi po mas mataas po si fixed overhead budget natin kaysa kay actual. Then, so budget variance is kind of related with the rate variance natin. We are taking into consideration the commonality of actual hours times the differences between the actual rating minus the standard rating. Okay? While the fixed overhead budget minus the fixed overhead applied is favorable din po kasi po mas mataas naman po yung ating actual na hours in terms of fixed overhead budget kaysa kay fixed overhead applied natin na meron tayo a total of $9,600. So, volume variance results when standard hours allowed for actual output differs from the denominator activities. So, pag unfavorable, when standard hours is less than the denominator hours or yung ating tinatawag na budgeted hours. No? Mas mataas po si standard hours kaysa, mas mababa po si standard hours kaysa kay budgeted hours natin. Well, kapag favorable naman po, mas mataas si standard hours kaysa kay budgeted hours. So, yung ating tinatawag na denominator hours. So, does not measure over or under spending. So, it results from treating fixed overhead as if it were a variable cost. So, overhead variances, let's look at a graph showing fixed overhead variances. We will use Kulakos numbers from the previous example. So this is our predetermined overhead using this fixed overhead variances. It is depending on our activity level na 3,000 hours. So rate po ito, no? Rate po ito. Pag sinabi natin, ito naman yung ating budgeted fixed expenses natin. So this is our rate. No? Pagtaas ng ating activity, pagbaba po ng ating fixed overhead rate natin. Okay? Then we have this 8,450 actual fixed cost. Kaya nangyari ay favorable siya kasi mas mababa siya kay budgeted fixed overhead natin. Then, dahil ito ay mas mababa din kay applied fixed overhead natin, this is favorable na $600 din. So, in a cost system, no? So, unfavorable siya, no? Variances are equivalent to under-applied kapag unfavorable. Kasi po, no? Under-applied siya, no? Kasi pagka unfavorable po, mas mataas yung ating actual hours kaysa kay applied. No? Ibig sabihin, mas mababa itong si applied kaysa some of these expenses. Kaya tinatawag siya under-applied. While kapag favorable naman po, mas mataas po yung ating yung ating applied kaysa kay actual. So, dito mas mataas po si applied kaysa kay actual. Kaya siya naging favorable. Question with chapter 11. Question class. Any questions before we proceed with chapter 12? Mabilis lang yung chapter 12 class. 28 slides lang po. Kaya may time pa tayo. Any questions? Baka may questions kayo, we can discuss. Anyone? Hello? Question? Nandiyan pa ba kayo, class?
Sir, wala naman po.
Okay, thank you. Sige, proceed na tayo kay chapter 12. Buksan ko lang sa chapter 12. So, konti na lang. Patapos na tayo, no? Hanggang chapter 15. Nabanggit ko yata sa inyo chapter 16, pero chinek ko ulit, parang chapter 15 lang talaga yung ating discussions. So, sa chapter 15 and chapter 16, chapter 14 and 15, medyo mahaba. So, I think enough naman siya by next week. Now, chapter 12. Just checking kung nandiyan ba kayo. So, okay, chapter 12 naman, let's have this segment reporting, decentralization, and balance scorecard. No? So, kay segment reporting, just to give you an overview muna, no? Segment reporting is, ang pinag-uusapan natin din is all of those financial statement and performance when it comes to a single segment or single departmental entity. No, kapag pag sinabi natin segment is a single part of any series of the operations. Okay? While this decentralization, we are taking those inputs from the low-level managers or those a kind of self-imposed budget then na we are taking the information not just from the higher level but also those from the cost centers, from the profit centers, and the investment sectors. Okay? And lastly, the balance scorecard, we can see all of those data numbers. Then by that, we can also measure the operating performance of those businesses. Okay? So first, let's have this cost center. So a segment cost manager has control over costs but not over revenues or investment funds. So dito, may iba't iba tayong, may segment tayo. Pag sinabi natin segment, a single entity o single, yung nabanggit ko kanina, no? Pero may iba't iba tayong phase, no? So first thing happens always is the cost center. So ano ba yung cost center natin? So in terms of supply chain or in terms of manufacturing setup then, which is we already always been part of our discussion, no, yung manufacturing setup. No? Ito cost center natin, it is a department na part for the business but not creating revenue. Kaya tinatawag siya na cost center lang. No? It will not create or generate revenue. No? So ano po yung cost center na yun? Yun po yung tinatawag natin na warehouse, distributions, or any sections aside from the warehouse and distributions na hindi part ng production and the top level management. No? Okay, cost center po kasi, let's say, example natin, si warehouse again. When it comes to manufacturing, ano ba yung tinatawag nating value added class? By the way, what is value added para sa inyo? Based on your understanding, ano nga ba yung value added? Anyone from the class? What is value added? I think tanong ko na to previously pero I would like to ask again. Kasi it's really important to know na we work with the value added and non-value added. So what is value added? Anyone from the class? Anyone? What is value added? Rosales? Ay, okay. Tama, sakto. Nandito ka na din eh. Sige, ikaw na lang, pabunan.
Sir, yung value added po, tama ka po yun po ay process time po.
Okay, which is from the calculation or from the specific topic natin kay chapter 10. Tama ba? No? Which is process time. No? Sige, thank you. So let's proceed, no? So kung dito kay process time, so sige, ipaliwanagan natin bakit na sir naging value added sa process time, tapos yung iba hindi. Si process time kasi nandito yung transformation natin from the raw materials to finished goods. No? Ang value added na tinatawag natin is something that the customer is looking, but it is something that the customer is willing to pay for. Yun yung binabayaran nila. Yun yung in-expect nila or yun yung gusto nilang mabili or makita, maramdaman, maamoy, magamit sa produkto na yun. Ano-ano ba mga yun? No. A sample of value added is, let's say, Honda Civic again. No? Hindi na tayo papakalil ng example para aware na tayo sa mga example natin. No? Honda Civic. No? Yung value added doon, it is those something na nakakapag-transform ng ating functionality, specification, design, and any key capabilities of that product. Example, gulong. Value added po siya. Tapos sabi ni customer, gusto ko may spoiler na. Which is a kind of value. I-request, babayaran ni customer yun. No. So, kay processing center or processing time natin, nandun yung part na lahat ng itong materials na ito is nabubuo. Nilalagyan ng gulong, nilalagyan ng spoiler, nilalagyan ng cruise control, nilalagyan ng windshield, nilalagyan natin ng upuan, pinipinturahan natin, all of those value. No? Kumbaga, ano naman yung mga non-value added? Yung mga part ng product na hindi naman hinihingi ni customer pero na hindi din niya binabayaran. Kumbaga, it is a sake for the continuation of the business, operational requirement, and the quality or security of the quality. No? So yung mga plastic yan, nilalagay lang naman natin yan para lang hindi agad magkakabok, ma-maintain yung pristine status niya, no? Yung kanya pagiging bago. No? So ano po relation nito kay cost center? Ito po ating production na to. Dito lang po nangyayari yung ating transformation ng product. Which is yun lang yung binabayaran ni customer. So yun yung ating value section. Sa warehouse po, hindi naman tayo binabayaran ni customer dahil tayo ay nag-i-store ng raw material sa warehouse natin. No? So that's the reason why si warehouse, tumatakbo sila pero hindi sila nag-generate ng revenue. Kasi hindi tayo binabayaran ni customer dahil tayo ay nag-i-store ng raw materials. Binabayaran tayo ng customer dahil kulay-pula yung Honda Civic na ginagawa natin. 18-inch yung gulong na meron tayo. Meron tayong dinagdag na spoiler sa likod ng Honda Civic. Yun yung ating value, which is happens in the production. Pero, bakit po sir ginagawa pa natin itong warehousing na to? It is a business requirement, also known as business non-value added entity. No? Kasi po, itong case na to, all of the sudden, no, kapag tumakbo o tumaas ang demand natin for any cases, instances, meron tayong pagkukunan ng materials, which is a kind of business requirement for us to easily and efficiently and effectively meet the customer demand. No? Kumaga parang nag-prepare ka lang, nag-store ka lang ng rep, ng pagkain sa rep during the rainy seasons na hindi ka makakalabas. Kasi kapag wala tayong warehouse, hindi natin mamimit lahat ng demands ng customer at any timely manner. No. Kumaga, lahat ng materials natin is coming over from the Indonesia, coming over from the Japan. So, imagine mo, magkano yung magiging cost natin doon. Gano'n pa siya katagal dumating. No? So, this is a kind of business requirement pero cost center lang po siya. So, by this case, a segment whose manager has control over cost. Cost lang po yung control natin kay warehousing or distribution. Next, Profit center. So a segment whose manager has control over both costs and revenues, but no control over investment funds. Ito naman yung ating production. So, gagamitin ko na yung example natin kanina. Actually, na example ko na yun, yung paano nangyayari yung value driven natin. So, yun po yung ating reason bakit siya tinawag na profit center. So, dito po nabubuo yung ating value, nabubuo yung product. Dito din tayo nakakapag-create ng revenue. And by that, we can increase or we can generate our profit. So, sir, bakit po kasama yung cost? Di ba sabi niyo, sir, profit center po ito? Yes. Kasi po, kaya meron tayong profit center, no? Paano ba natin kung-compute si profit? No? It is the difference between the sales or our revenues minus expenses. We are not just only managing our revenues by increasing our sales, our capability to produce more, no? But also we are also managing our resources to reduce the direct labor, reduce the direct material while meeting the customer demands, or generally reduction of costs. Okay. Lastly, investment center. So ano naman po investment center? Kasi say production na po nabanggit natin kanina. Ito naman po. Ito naman po yung ating executive level, yung mga top management natin. Sila naman po yung may control sa lahat. No, sila yung may power sa lahat. May control sila over cost, revenues, and investment. Investment center siya kasi sila po yung nagbibigay ng budget sa atin. Sila po yung nagbibigay ng financial capacity sa atin. So that's the reason why meron tayong nabanggit before na self-imposed budgeting. No? It is coming from the top management down to the lower level managers or our operations. Okay? So decentralization and segment reporting. A segment is any part or activity of an organization about which a manager 311 which a manager seeks cost, revenue, or profit data. No? Pag sinabi natin segment, it's a kind of warehouse department or production department or distribution department or top management department. Okay? Okay. So keys to segmented income statement. There are two keys to building segmented income statement. So first, a contribution format should be used because it separates fixed from variable cost and it enables the calculation of contribution margin. So kung dito kay contribution format, no, ang pinag-uusapan natin is yung the differences o yung emphasis natin between the variable expenses and then the fixed expenses for us to give an emphasis also with the contribution margin there. No? So, kung previously meron tayong traditional format, we are using the COGS and also the period expense. Dito kay contribution format, we are now using it. No? Generally dito at the end of the latter part of the discussion because umiikot na po yung discussions natin, yung the fixed and variable expenses natin. Okay? So, traceable fixed cost should be separated from common fixed cost to enable the calculation of segment margin. So, later on, no, ano ba yung ating tinatawag na traceable fixed cost? Yung tinatawag natin na traceable cost arise because of the existence of a particular segment would disappear over time if the segment itself disappear. No? So yung traceable cost po natin, yun yung mga measurable cost natin. No? No, not just totally a fixed cost in terms of information, but also those costs na measurable. Ano ba mga example na? Direct materials, direct labor. Sila po yung mga common na or yung majority of the traceable cost is silang dalawa. No? Kasi as you remember, no, from the previous chapter, meron tayong pinag-usapang o meron tayong na-discuss ni MRF, which is coming from the accounting department. So, at the initial state, itong si MRF natin is, mapapansin nyo, may calculation natin o may estimation agad tayo o measured based on the requirement na kung gaano karaming direct labor natin at direct materials. Measured na agad siya, no? No. So dito kay traceable cost din, so part siya ng measurable cost, which is the direct labor and direct materials. Sinasabi niya dito, so if the segment would disappear over time, no, particularly over time, if the segment itself also will disappear, no? Kumbaga itong mga cost na to, traceable cost na to, if wala tayong customer demand, no, it will also disappear, or it will also control. It will also affect our direct labor or yung mga traceable cost natin. Kasi if wala naman tayong customer demand, wala din tayong i-allocate na direct materials, direct labor. No. Unlike in a warehousing, which is our common cost. Mga common cost po natin arise because of the overall operation of the company and would not disappear if any particular segment were eliminated. Ito naman po yung mga warehousing natin, no? Kasi they are not related to the product or they are not proportional to the product, no? Kahit wala po tayong takbo sa operations, wala po tayong customer that day o customer demand that day, so it's still running. Hindi po tayo maapektuhan, no? Kasi po, si ating common cost, usually yung mga general cost natin, no? So, sila is not depending on our production, but also focusing on the other activities pa na meron. Kasi for the warehousing, hindi lang po kasi ang responsibility ni warehouse is just to provide or just to replenish or provide the production raw materials to production, but also to have this warehouse management system, inventory management, cycle count accuracy and location accuracy management, no, stock keeping units management, no, system integration for the warehouse management, logistics management, freight management, air freight, and some of the task pa na may ikot, no. Maganda pa karami niyan, no. Kaya that's the reason why it cannot be eliminated easily. Okay? So traceable cost can become common cost, no? Itong traceable cost na to, yung direct materials natin and direct labor, can be also a common cost. But this common cost, yung mga initially identified common cost, cannot be traceable cost, no? Kasi traceable cost, once na lahat ito tumatakbo, meron tayong customer demand, no? And then we have this warehousing, it can also considered common cost na. Pero kapag wala tayong customer demand that time, or but from that given specific period of time, no, so it can also it cannot considered under non-common cost. So that's the reason why itong traceable cost can become a common cost, but common cost cannot be a traceable cost. So it is important to realize that the traceable fixed cost of one segment may be common fixed cost of another segment. Okay? Okay. Next, segment margin. So which is computed by subtracting the traceable fixed cost of a segment from its contribution margin, is the best gauge of the long run profitability. So pag sinabi natin segment margin, or it's a kind of a segment, no, we are talking those performance, no, margin, ibig sabihin expenses minus revenues minus expenses of that specific or single entity segment o yung single department na natin, no. Kumaga ito yung tinatawag na segment margin. Pag sinabi natin warehousing lang. It is totally different with the production. It is totally different with the finance, sales, and some of the department pa, or some of the segment pa. Okay? Traceable and common cost, we have fixed cost, but don't allocate common cost to segments. Bakit kaya? No? Kasi pag pinagsama mo tong si common cost, which is not measurable, tapos sinamahan mo pa ng fixed cost, so the sure end result will be low profit income or loss. Kasi sobrang taas po ng expenses. So that's the reason why we are promoting to have this traceable cost together with the fixed cost. Okay. So it's an example, no, activity-based costing kung paano natin na-measure yung or yung flexibility on how we measure or trace any fixed cost, no? Kasi ang pinag-uusapan natin, meron tayong square or yung least cost natin, yung ating renta, no? Pero paano ba natin siya measure? So we can measure it using this activity-based costing. Okay? Assume that 3 products, 9-inch, 12-inch, and 18-inch pipe share 10,000 square feet of warehousing space, which is leased at a price of $4 per square meter. So if the 9-inch, 12-inch, and 18-inch pipes occupy 1,000, 4,000, 5,000 square feet, respectively, then ABC can be used to trace the warehousing cost to the 3 product assumed. So by that, you can see that the flexibility on how we measure this cost. But in terms of traditional format, the only thing that you can see is total na agad na fixed cost. Pero dito, kay activity-based costing, we can see the differences between each of the sections. Okay? Ilang naman yung point. So return on investment. So when we say return or ROI class, alam ko aware ka dito. Ano yung understanding nyo when we say ROI, return on investment? Anyone from the class? Kayo naman. Class, anyone? What is ROI or anong understanding nyo pag sinabi natin ROI? Return on investment. Ay, sorry. Okay, Miss Pilio.
Sir, ang idea ko po sa return of investment is kapag po, audible ka po?
Yeah.
Kapag po napabalik na yung puhunan mo and mag-start ka na po mag-generate ng tubo or profit.
Okay. So, very situational case or very traditional information. So, thank you. So, may point yung sinabi niya, no? Kapag ka na balik mo na yung investment na yun, so you are going to have the tubo na. Or yung ito yung pinag-uusapan din natin kay ROI, yung ating capacity for us to have that kind of income, no, after this investment. So, on how many years or how many, what case or our capacity to have these returns after that investment, no? Kumbaga, ilan bang taon bago natin masabi na we are earning the profit after that investment na, no? Kumbaga dito, return on investment, our capacity, which is below the contract base natin, no? Kumbaga parang meron tayong investment, we are looking at the increase of capacity, increase of our revenues, and then by that case, we can have these investment expenses, no, while having this increase in terms of sales. Kumbaga tinutulungan tayo nito si ROI para magkaroon tayo ng visibility at ng ating capability na mabayaran yung ating investment while having this increase. No, paligtad pala. Tinutulungan tayo na magkaroon ng capability na makita yung ating sales capability and potential while having this investment payment. Okay? So understanding ROI, so we have the given formula na net operating income divided by the average operating assets. So we have this margin. So net operating income divided by sales, turnover, kung tinatawag natin na payback years, then sales divided by average operating assets. So we can also treat ROI using this margin times turnover. So, increasing ROI, there are 3 ways to increase ROI. First, increase sales. No? Kumbaga, hindi ka naman basta mag-invest lang kasi gusto mo lang gumanda yung operations mo, but also you have to increase sales. Kasi hindi mo kaya makabayad ng investment kung hindi mo mapapataas yung sales mo. Halimbawa, meron ka current machines. Yung machine na yun is kaya niya makabuo ng 5 produkto sa loob ng isang minuto. Or 5 milk powder, sabihin natin milk powder yung product natin, 5 milk powder sa isang minuto. No? So, gusto mo mag-invest to another machines na kaya ng times 3. By that case, you can increase your sales also kasi you are increasing your output. Pero kapag ang case mo, yung current machine mo is 5 per minute, tapos bumili ka ng bagong machines, pero 5 pa rin siya per minute, yung nangyari lang is kumanda lang yung machine. So, it will be a huge factor of loss. Possible, malugi lang tayo. Kasi mag-i-invest ka with the same capacity. Next, reduce expenses. Ito naman yung case na you are looking for the cost savings. Nag-invest ka, say, meron kang 5 tao sa isang linya ng production. 5 tao yun. Sabihin natin 10 tao. 10 tao na. Yun. Mag-invest ka for the machine. Itong machine na to, kaya niya na ma-eliminate, magawa yung trabaho ng pang 7 tao. So by that case, pwede ka mag-eliminate ng 7 tao or you can eliminate direct labor cost times 7 manpower. So by that case, you can reduce expenses. Pero pag ang case, nag-invest ka sa machine tapos same number of headcounts pa din, same number of resources calculation pa din. So this will not give a good impact with the ROI. Lastly, reduction of assets. Let's say ngayon, ang demand capability mo lang o demand requirement mo pa lang is pang 5,000 units lang per month. 5,000 lang, no? Pero, ang ini-invest mo na agad sa asset is pang 100,000 na. So, sobrang taas na agad yung investment expenses mo pero kumpara mo doon sa iyong capability to sell the products kasi pang 5,000 lang yung demand mo ngayon. So, hindi mo mababenta yung 95,000 units. Dahil tumaas yung asset capability mo na makapag-produce niyan by 100,000 at the same time. So, mangyayari yun, tataas lang yung inventory mo, tataas yung cost mo, tataas din yung iyong maintenance expense, pero at the same level of sales. So, you have also to consider yung assets number. You have to align kung ano ba yung currently yung kailangan lang ng operations ko o yung assets na kailangan lang ng operations ko. Kasi currently, pang 5,000 units lang yung kailangan ko. So, am I going to propose na ba to a new machines that can also handle 100,000 units? Hindi. Kasi hindi ka pa naman totally demanding with the customers na kaya nilang bumili ng 100,000. So, pang 5,000 lang din yung kaya nilang bilhin sa'yo. Ayun. So, critics of ROI. So, in the absence of the balanced scorecard, management may not know how to increase ROI. Kapag wala silang awareness and information with the balanced scorecard, with regards to performance measures, financial measures of this any segment, they don't know also on how to increase ROI. Possible, they're not aware kung ano yung tamang investment limit lang yung dapat nilang i-secure and i-set for that changes. Hindi kasi sila aware with the balanced scorecard. Managers often inherit many committed costs over which they have no control. Kasi kapag ganyan, nag-invest ka na, nag-start na yung ROI, you are now committed to that cost or hindi pwede na nag-i-invest ka na, nagbabayad ka na yearly ng investment cost, investment expense. Ay, pwede bang next year na lang, the following year na lang kasi mababa yung benta ko this year. Hindi pwede ganun. You are committed to pay it. Okay? Managers evaluated on ROI may reject profitable investment opportunities. Kapag ka naman totally restricted ka with this balanced scorecard and you are going to have a limit, too much limit with the ROI, you can also reject profitable investment. Halimbawa, yung ROI limit mo is pang 3 years lang. Pero yung investment opportunity is pang 4 years. Pwede mo siyang ma-reject though napakaganda ng kanyang impact sa business. No? So, calculating residual income. So, residual income, net operating income minus the average operating asset times minimum required rate of return. So, this computation differs from ROI. So, kay residual income, so ano ba pag sinabi natin residual income? It's a kind of continuous flow. So, when we say continuous flow, yun yung tipong tapos ka na mag-invest, no? Tapos na yung investment period mo, investment payment mo, then tuloy pa rin yung income mo kahit na wala ka nang binabayarang investment expense or any operating expense. Ano yung example ng mga residual income? Yun yung mga passive income natin ngayon na mga rental or lease income. Yun po yung tipong kahit wala kang gawin, wala ka nang i-allocate na operating expenses, still you are earning. Halimbawa, meron kang manufacturing building na tumatakbo sa lupa ko. Ganun. Ako, kahit ako magpahiga-higa, wala akong gagawin sa inyo. Papahiram ko lang, paparentahan ko lang yung aking lupain para gamitin nyo sa business transactions nyo. I'm still earning money kahit nakahiga lang ako. It's a kind of continuous income. So, siguro nagkaroon lang ako ng investment at the initial state na nagpaayos ako ng papers, nagpaayos ako ng lote, ng premise, ng facility for them to use for the business transaction. Afterwards, after the investment, no, still continuously I'm having this income. Okay? So, motivation ng residual income encourage managers to make profitable investment that would be rejected by managers using ROI. So, okay. So, balanced scorecard management translate its strategy into performance measures that employees understand and influence. So, a balanced scorecard nga nabanggit ko din. So, we can see all of those financial measures, performance, operating performance. No? So, but dito din nabanggit na meron tayong performance measures in terms of financial. Kumbaga, our potentiality to have this EBIT or yung tinatawag natin earnings before income tax or yung easily can those financial entity that can generate profit, then customers, no? Kumbaga, in terms of increasing our sales, we have the capability to have the measures in terms of customers, learning and growth for those direct labor or for the expenses natin, no? Kumbaga, we're not just allocating easily those expenses, but also we are also investing to those training para maging aware yung mga tao natin with the productions para din hindi tayo ma-eliminate natin yung mga quality issues. At the same time, we can also make them competent sa halip na kailangan pa nila ng katulong na gumawa ng a single task that can perform only by individual people, no? They can do it alone na lang kasi sila ay trained. Next is internal business processes, kind of business requirement or business activities. So just to example, mga streamlining of the operations, no? We are streamlining kung ano ba yung mga dapat na process, ano na dapat yung process flow na sunod-sunod natin for us to secure and manage the efficiency and effectiveness of the operations. Okay. Next is the balanced scorecard non-financial measures. So the balanced scorecard relies on non-financial measures in addition to financial measures. First is we have this financial measures are lag indicators that summarizes the results of the past actions. Non-financial measures are leading indicators of the future financial performance. So, yung difference lang nila ba ng bawat isa is kapag financial measures, so by that case, meron na tayo actual number of the performance. No? So, we can get this from the historical data and by that, we can decide and we can measure those performances na. No, kung ilan ba yung naging resources natin, gaano ba yung magiging profit natin. Then by the non-financial measures, it's a kind of projections naman. So, ilan ba yung tao na kailangan natin? Ilan ba yung ating demand by that given day na darating sa darating na week na yun, sa darating na araw na yun, sa darating na customer requirement na yun, no? We can have these measures, leading indicators for the future financial performance. Next, staff managers are ordinarily responsible for financial performance measures, not lower level managers. Non-financial measures are more likely to be understood and controlled by lower level managers. Staff managers are sila po yung ating capable to have this visibility of, in terms of financial measures. Sila din yung capable in terms of investment, no? So that's the reason why they have these staff managers, sila din yung may control ng lahat cost in terms of cost, profit, and investment. While these non-financial measures more likely understood, controlled by the lower level managers, sila yung mga nasa operation or some of the production-driven, value-driven phase natin, no? Usually, they are having the capability to measure the cost or profit. Okay? So a balanced scorecard should have measures that are linked together on a cost and effect basis. Okay? So if we improve one performance measures, so then another desired performance measure will be improved. So the balanced scorecard lays out concrete actions to attain desired outcomes. Okay? Next, have this transfer price is the price charged when one segment of the company provides goods or services to another segment of the company. Ano ba yung tinatawag natin transfer price? From the previous chapters, meron tayong tinatawag na raw materials debit, no? Sa MRF natin o sa mga journal entries natin before, no? Ibig sabihin, ang kwento lang nun, nagkaroon tayo ng purchasing of the raw materials. And then once na dumating na to, itong cost na to will be debited to the, or this, kumbaga itong ating raw materials na to will be debited to the warehousing, no? So under the raw materials entity, okay? And then we will have our accounts payable na credit. And then mas na tinamaan na to ng orders. So kailangan na natin ng mga raw materials na production. This raw materials debit before will be credited to the warehousing, to the raw materials. Then it will be now debited to the work in process or our production. Kumbaga, from the warehouse, na-transfer natin not just only the physical items to the production, but also those inventory or those prices. No? Hindi kasi pwedeng yung physical item is nasa production, pero yung cost and yung inventory is nandun pa rin sa warehouse. No? Hindi pwedeng yung production, yung item nasa production na, and then yung inventory ay nasa warehouse pa. So you have to transfer pa din. So yun lang naman yung sinasabi niya dito. So that the fundamental objective in setting transfer price is to motivate managers to act in the best interest of the overall company. So ano ba yung mga best interest of the overall company? Yun yung mga zero inaccuracy or inventory versus location inaccuracy, no? 100% cycle count, 100% storage utilization, 100% production efficiency, 100% effectiveness of the transfer of material replenishment, na tinatawag natin. No? It's a kind of the business interest. Okay? So, there are three primary approaches to setting transfer prices. So, negotiated transfer prices, transfers at the cost to the selling division, and transfers at market price. So negotiated transfer price results from discussion between the selling and buying division. So we are talking about those dun sa ating a kind of downstream and upstream na tinatawag. No? Yung downstream is coming from the supply to production to the production until the product made. No? Then yung upstream naman is coming from the production to the customer. No? You are going to have this overviewing, no? Kumbaga parang kung ano yung nating expenses natin from the downstream, from the buying divisions, you have to secure it until the upstream or our selling divisions. No? Bumili tayo ng materials, magkano nagastos, excuse me, magkano nagastos, then hanggang sa ma-complete natin yung COGS na dapat balance pa din together with that given raw materials, no? Hanggang sa mabenta na siya, no? Okay? So it's a kind of negotiated transfer price. Next is transfer at the cost of the selling division. So many companies set transfer prices at either the variable cost or full absorption cost incurred by the selling division. So we're only looking at the one part of the supply chain. So under the upstream na to, yung ating cost coming from the production to the selling point or our distribution point to the customers. So so drawbacks of this approach includes using full cost as a transfer price can lead to sub-optimization. Second, the selling division will never show a profit on any internal transfer. And lastly, cost-based transfer prices do not provide incentives to control costs. Next, transfer at market price. The market price, the price charged for an item on the open market is often regarded as the best approach to transfer pricing. No? Kumbaga dito, you are looking solely at your own entity. No? Kung paano natin ma-set yung ating market price na to o yung ating transfer at this market price. Kumbaga pag ang pinag-usapan natin dito is you are taking those after that product being produced, you have to consider those other segment or other product at the given segment to get this marketability differences. No? By that case, we can have this market pricing standardizations, no, at the single sole entity natin. Okay? So market price approach works best when the product or service is sold in its present form to outside customers and the selling division has no idle capacity. So a market price approach does not work well when the selling division has idle capacity. No, kapag may idle capacity yung ating selling division, meaning there are some case meron tayong pre-selling point na tinatawag, hindi tayo magbenta, you cannot earn for the market price or you cannot seek for the market price. Maybe you can only seek for those regular and negotiated transfer pricing. Reasons for charging service department, no? Kumbaga pag sinabi natin service department, all of those subcon or all of those supporting department for the production na hindi na kayang gawin ng operations ni production itself. So that's the reason why you are looking to the providers. Excuse me. The service department costs are charged to operating departments for a variety of reasons. First, to encourage operating departments to wisely use service department resources. No? Dito kasi nabibigyan natin ng emphasis yung ating service department kasi by this case, meron tayong outlining that kumbaga outlining with together with the vertical integration. Pag sinabi natin vertical integration, all of those needs or requirements by the production can be done also only by the production itself or being independent. Pero dito, you are having an emphasis for those service department resources. Next, to provide operating department with more complete cost data for making decisions. No? Third, to help measure the profitability of operating departments. And lastly, to create an incentive for service department to operate efficiently. Okay, so charging cost by behavior. So whenever possible, variable and fixed of service department cost should be charged separately. No? So same as what we had kanina, no? We are taking the different emphasis between the variable expenses and fixed expenses. Same as well dito kay service department, no? you are to take charge it differently pa din. Though it is not directly a kind of financial statement, same with the production. Okay? Question with the chapter 12. Questions po. 26, may nag-leave na apat. Question class. So, class, if walang questions, I think we can have a quick break muna. No? Let's have 5 minutes or maybe balik tayo ng 3:50 p.m. No, 3:44 currently. So let's go back here by 3:50 to continue the discussion with chapter 3. Okay? So, let's have a quick break muna. Thank you. Hello? Okay, class, continue. So, kumustahin ko muna kayo. Nandiyan pa ba kayo? Anyone can speak? Okay. Thank you, thank you. Okay, let's proceed with the chapter 13 discussions. Now na tubig. Okay, here we go. So we have 1 hour and 10 minutes. So I think enough naman yung time para matapos natin chapter 13. So by next week we only have 2 remaining chapters na lang. So 14 and 15, and then we are now done. Takal mo po sa Okay, here we go. 76 slides for 1 hour. Okay. Ito. So kaya lang siya mukhang mahaba, no? Kasi merong mga gaya nito. Tingnan mo na kay Comer. Mga pinulit-ulit lang kasi nagpapaliwanag si Kuya. Paulit-ulit na yung table. Okay. Game. Okay, so differential analysis. No? So when we say differential analysis, we are taking the differential relevancy between all of those alternatives, all of those proposals, opportunities, and projects. No? So the key to decision making. So all I think, all we need to do is to set those parameters, no? So those calculations for us to make this decision, which is totally related to what we had with the chapter 1, no? Chapter 1 and 2. No, meron tayong mga relevant cost, incremental cost, meron tayong opportunity cost, and some of the initial calculation na meron tayo nun. So, ang responsibility po nila, part of our curriculum, is for us to learn on how we can create decision. So all we know, this managerial accounting help us to be competent in terms of creating decisions, because as we all know, we are all the future managers, no? We are taking that responsibility that we can create efficient decisions. So before that, what are those references that we are going to consider for us to create decisions? What are those planning, objectives, control, coordinations that we are going to consider part of our decision-making phase? First, learning objective number 1. So identify relevant and irrelevant costs. Okay. So question class, pampagising lang. So what is relevant cost? So for you, what is relevant cost? On your own understanding, your own explanation, no? Your own words. What is relevant cost? Anyone from the class? Pag sinabi natin relevant cost, what is relevant cost? Class, what is relevant cost? Anyone? So, pabawas ang bahay ni Kuya. Dalawa na nabawas na 6. Paula Maril Francel. Pitogo. Paula. What is relevant cost?
Sir, for me po, hindi ko po sure, try lang po. Ito po yung mga cost na kumbaga yung importante dahil ayun nga po relevant cost. kumbaga, yung para po sa decision making po ng business, siya po yung dapat pag-focusan or yun nga po, important cost.
Okay, thank you. Sige, thank you for your own words. Okay, let's have another one passage. Balita. Anong balita? Would you like to share? Balita? What is relevant cost for you? From your own words. Not looking at the dictionary, not looking at any search engines. No. Tingin mo, pag sinabi natin same as what we did with Miss Pitogo, so, ano yung own words mo? Own understanding pag sinabi natin relevant cost. Any answers is acceptable. Okay. Balita. Hello? Nawala. Ayan, okay. Okay, sige. You can share. No, you can speak up. Articulate your thoughts.
Like ko lang po yung prevalent cost.
Ano? Sorry.
Like ko lang po ngayon yung prevalent cost. Na-search ko po ay ang relevant cost daw po ay are always the future cost. Tapos po ay are always avoidable cost and can be either positive or negative po.
Okay, thank you. So, avoidable cost, no? Okay, Mr. Magnaye. Thank you.
Hello po, sir. Audible po.
Yes. Audible.
Okay po. So, yung relevant cost po, based lang po sa understanding. So, from the word itself po ay relevant. So, parang connected po siya sa isang company, sa decision making na isang company. And itong mga cost na po na ito is parang ito po yata yung kabuuang gastos and magmamatter po yung decision ng company sa cost na po na yun. And,
okay. Okay, thank you so much for giving your information. No? So, sige. Okay, so relevant cost, before we start with the specific information that we can also discuss later on. No? So, relevant cost is about, yun yan, nabanggit kanina, no? A lot of information. So, the most highlighting point is yung avoidable cost. No? So, we can get this by having these differences. Having the differences between alternatives. No? Ito bang cost from the different alternative has the different impact. No? It is relevant ba or common ba or important ba on each side, no? Each of the alternative for the impact or for the general impact of the whole business. No? Kumbaga dito kay relevant cost, we are looking if this the difference pa between the two alternatives is having the relevancy, no? Kumbaga commonality when we compare, when we differentiate them in order for us to get those avoidable costs na tinatawag natin or yung differentiated cost natin. So it's either we can get loss or profit. No? So by that we can create decisions. If we are going to get loss, no? So by that we can also reject the proposals. Okay? Or if we are going to get profit, so by that we can accept that proposal or alternatives. So relevant cost is cost that differs between alternatives. Same as with the relevant benefit is a benefit that differs between alternatives. Okay? So basic information we can get from this slide. So let's move forward. So identify relevant costs. So Unavoidable is a cause that can be eliminated in full or in part by choosing one alternative over another. So avoidable costs are irrelevant costs or unavoidable costs are irrelevant costs. So just to make deeper thoughts, no? Just to make a deeper articulations. Ano ba naman tong avoidable cost? So pag sinabi natin avoidable cost, so in Tagalog, ito yung mga pwede nating maiwasan costs. So let's have an example dito na avoidable cost sila po yung example, meron tayong problem with the company or based on my experience na din to, no? Meron pong problema si kumpanya dati. No? Ang problema niya, dahil pandemic season, so I'm starting my first job, no? Yung problema niya that time is we are having issues with the inventories, with the resources, materials. So sa company, they are proposing the build-and-ship product or build-and-ship project. So they are going to build and build and build the product. Kasi nga, nagkakaubusan tayo ng materials. So by that, it will increase or it will also resulting to the cases na si company mag-earn or mag-i-invest for the material acquisitions or magsusupply sa atin ng materials. By that, the inventory will shoot up as for inventory. Ang problem ngayon, yung current storage capacity natin is around, I think, 5,000 pallets lang. Yung isang warehouse natin. No? 5,000 pallets lang siya. No? Ngayon, mataas yung demand natin just to accept or to store that products or those raw materials. Ngayon, ang alternative is to rent another warehouse. So you will have another kind of 7.5 million pesos rental expenses. No, per month pa yun. Just to cope up another 2,000 pallets. So another alternative, no, kumbaga parang nagkaroon na ng study by the engineer, no, na what if we increase the current storage capacity, no? Currently, yung storage natin up to the 5,000. And let's have that investment, no? Investment tayo dun sa i-optimize natin yung current storage capacity natin, no? Na magkaroon tayo ng increase of storage capacity by utilizing the current storage. No? Nag-redesign tayo, nagkaroon tayo ng resources calculation, budgeting, and acquisition from the external suppliers. No? By that case, just to make the story short, no, na-increase po natin yung warehouse natin up to 7,300 capacity. So lahat ng requirement for the business or for the build and ship project na ipasok natin sa isang warehouse lang. Sa halip na magkakaroon pa tayo ng other external warehouse. Ang investment lang natin is umabot lang around 3.2 million. No? So meaning, ang avoidable cost natin is the difference between the 7.5 million minus 3.2 million. Yung 7.5 million pa na yun is monthly. Yung 3.2 million is a one-time investment. So in terms of annualized cost, you save around 7 to 8 digit savings per year, no? So just to have that investment, no, just to have that opportunity. So by that case, yung avoidable cost po natin doon is yun yung naiwasan cost natin by proposing another alternative. No, kasi initially alternative natin just to have a common action is to increase the warehouses. Pero ngayon, by having the study, si engineer, so nagkaroon siya ng project around na i-optimize yung current operations natin, yung current storage natin. So by that, nakasave po sa kumpanya. So yun yung tinatawag nating avoidable cost. Yun yung the difference between the alternatives. No? Kumbaga, ito sana yung gastos natin. Ganito sana kalaking gastos natin. Kaso nagkaroon tayo ng panibagong project na optimize natin yung current operations, current storage. So by that case, nakatipid po tayo. Okay? So this is also our avoidable cost. Okay? So two broad categories of costs are never relevant in any decision. So they include sunk costs, a future cost that does not differ between alternatives. So mga sunk costs na yun po yung mga malalaking investment natin o yung mga futuristic investment natin, or which is a kind of fixed cost na. No? Sila po yung mga fixed cost natin na kind of irrelevant na. Kasi po, this will not give an emphasis between the alternatives or between the difference between all of those alternatives. Okay? So decision making. So that was the process, eliminate costs and benefits that do not differ between alternatives. Second, use the remaining costs and benefits that differ between alternatives in making the decision. So the costs that remain are the differential or avoidable cost natin. So different costs for different purpose, costs that are relevant in one decision situation may not be relevant in another context. No? Kumbaga pag sinabi natin around yung relevancy niya is only for specific cases lang. Ano po, pag sinabi natin insurances, expenses, pag pinag-usapan natin sa kotse, no? Pag pinag-usapan natin insurances, o ano pa ba? Sabi natin, gas expenses natin. If we are going to have a driving setup or if we are going to have a commute setup, no? Kapag ginamit natin yung gas or relevancy natin, yung gas expenses natin, so in other cases, let's say, ang cases naman natin yan is ginamit mo siya in terms of having this Grab or having this some of the other alternatives ba, no? Na pwede natin magamit. So maybe it will not be relevant naman. Or kumbaga, yung ating mga relevancy can also be considered for the specific purposes. So later on, maintindihan natin bakit ganun yung case dito, no? Sinasabi niya kasi meron tayong specific relevancy categorizations, no? Pero kumbaga parang tinitignan natin yung ating mga expenses na yan on a specific manner, no? So, in each decision situation, the manager must examine the data at hand and isolate the relevant costs. Okay? So, identifying relevant costs. So, we have the given data. So, Cynthia, a Boston student, is considering visiting her friend in New York. So, she can drive or take the train. So, yung alternative natin dito, dalawa. So, either magdadrive ba siya ng kotse niya or mag-commute nila siya using the train. So, by car, it is 230 miles malayo to her friend's apartment. So, she is trying to decide which alternative is less expensive and has gathered the following information. So, first, so we have this automobile cost. So, based on the 10,000 miles driven per year, so we have annual straight line. Annual straight and depreciation of cars, we have 2.8. So cost per month is 0.28. No? Cost of gasoline is $0.1. Annual cost of the insurance and license, we have 1,380. Or cost per month is 0.138. Maintenance and repairs, we have 0.065. Parking fees at school of 360, so we have 0.036. So our total average cost will be $0.62. So let's see. So it is coming from the salvage value of 5 years natin. $10,000 minus from the 24,000 cost. Okay. So we have 2.7 per gallon, 27 MFG. No? So $45 per month times 8, we have 360. So let's have additional information naman. So reduction in resale value of car per mile, we have 0.026 round trip train. So using this train na to, yung nag-commute na siya, we have $104. Benefits of relaxing on train trip. So, it is not a monetary value. So, question mark siya. Pero a kind of relevant situation din. Kasi nga, pag ikaw nag-drive, mapapagod ka. Pag ikaw naman nag-take ng commute, nakakatulog ka pa sa biyahe, makakapahinga ka, di ba? Cost of putting dog in kennel while gone. So, while wala siya, so, puput niya yung aso niya sa kennel. So, magbabayad pa rin siya. Benefit of having car in New York, wala din siya. Hassle of parking in New York, yung hirap ng pag-park sa New York. So, question mark din. Then, per day cost of parking in New York, so we have $25. So, let's see, or let's identify the relevant cost. First, the cost of the car is sunk cost. Is a sunk cost and is not relevant to the current decision. Yung sunk cost po under the depreciation po natin, gamitin man niya o hindi ang kotse, still, ganun po din po yung presyo niya. So, meaning, not relevant po siya. Either siya ay mag-drive or mag-take ng train. No? Kasi po, once na bumili ka ng kotse, at your first day of gamit, usually, bumababa agad ng 30% ng depreciation or nag-depreciate agad up to 30% yung binili mo. Yan. No? Same as thing dito, once na tumanda yung kotse mo sa pagtagal ng panahon, no, gamitin man o hindi, still, tumataas o bumababa po yung ating sunk cost. No? So, it is not relevant to the alternative. Next, the annual cost insurance is not relevant. No? Kasi yung insurance po, fixed cost po siya. So, kung gamitin mo man ang kotse o hindi, so, it is not relevant. No? Magbabayad pa rin kahit ikaw ay mag-take ng trade. So, hindi mo mababawasan yung insurance cost mo. So, however, the cost of gasoline is clearly relevant. No? Siyempre, kapag nag-kotse ka, magbabayad ka ng gasolina. Unlike kay pag nagpunta ka sa train, nag-commute ka, so wala kang mabayar ng gasolina. Pasahe lang. Okay? The cost of maintenance and repairs is relevant. Kasi po, hindi mo masasabi, no? The more gamitin mo yung kotse, mag-drive ka papuntang New York, hindi mo masabing daan, may lubak, masira yung gulong mo, maplatan ka, or magka-problema yung pintura, magka-problema yung windshield. So, it is part of the maintenance and repair. No? Unlike kapag nag-take ka lang ng train, wala kang iisipin na baka maplatan ka, wala kang iisipin na wala kang pag-agustusan na baka masira yung or baka magkadumi or magkaroon ng gas-gas ng sakyan. No? Next, the monthly school parking fee is not relevant because it must be paid if siya drives or take the train. Yung school na pinanggalingan niya. No? So, magbayad man siya ng kotse o hindi, ay mag-take man siya ng kotse or mag-commute, still, fixed cost po yung ating monthly parking fee. No? Still, babayaran niya pa niya. Gamitin man niya yung parking o hindi. Okay? So, at this point, we can see that some of the average costs of 0.62 per mile are relevant and others are not. So, which costs and benefits are relevant in Cynthia's decision? So, the decline in resale value due to the additional miles is a relevant cost. No, ito po yung tinatawag natin odo. Yung ating odometer, yung total kilometer ng ating sasakyan. The more na tumaas yung ating auto, the more na bumaba yung ating resale value. So, it is relevant. No? Siyempre, additional 230 miles, pabalik pa, di magiging 660 as 460, no? So, magiging 460 yung ating additional auto. No? Kung 230 papunta, 230 din pabalik. So, it is a kind of relevant cost. Unlike kapag nag-take ka ng train, no? Mangyayari niyan ay wala kang increase in terms of kilometer run, no? Yung resale value ng sasakyan nyo. Next, the round trip train fare is clearly relevant, no? Kapag syempre kapag nag-drive ka, wala kang nababayaran train na pasahe. Then, relaxing on train is relevant din. Syempre, kapag nag-drive ka, mapagod ka, pero kapag nag-train ka, pwede ka matulog. Pag gising mo, bababa ka na lang. So, it is a kind of relevant case din. Pero hindi po siya cost. No, wala naman po siyang cost. Kaya nakalagay sa kanya is question mark lang. Then, the kernel cost is not relevant because Cynthia will incur the cost if she drives or takes the train. No. So, which costs and benefits are relevant in Cynthia's decision? Part nito. So, the cost of parking in New York is relevant. No? Kasi kapag nagdala siya ng sasakyan, for sure, kailangan niya mag-park doon. So, kailangan niya din magbayad ng parking fee. The benefits of having car in New York and the problems of finding a parking space are both relevant but are difficult to assign a dollar amount. Yung unang case dito, pag may dala kang kotse, syempre, hindi ka na mag-iisip kung saan ka sasakay. Saan yung estasyon ng bus, saan yung estasyon ng tren. No? Anytime, anywhere, pwede ka makapunta. No? Unlike kay biyahe, no? You have to secure your time. You have to secure the places, stations. No? Pero dito naman sa kabila, finding of parking space naman. Kapag may kotse ka, mag-iisip ka kung saan ka magpapark. Unlike kay biyahe, wala kang iisipin na papark na sasakyan. So let's see the identified relevant costs. No? In terms of relevancy between the two, the financial cost of driving, ito yung total cost niya. We have $137.86, while relevant financial cost for taking the train, we have $104. So meaning, sa dalawang alternative, Cynthia will choose taking the train. So, magbabiyahe na lang si Cynthia. Okay. Next, move forward. So, total and differential cost approach, the management of a company is considering a new labor-saving machine that runs for $3,000 per year. So, data about the company's annual sales and cost with and without the new machine. No? Ang dalawang alternative po natin is meron tayong situation and then yung sitwasyon na may panibagong machine. So this is the differential cost and the benefits. No? So yung pares nilang sales, we have 5,000 units at $40 per unit. So let's see in terms of cost na lang. No? So we have $200 for both sales. So for the less variable expenses, no? So direct materials is irrelevant po. No? Kumaga, kahit ito, no? Kumaga, kahit ito, saka ito, alin man sa dalawang itong piliin mo, you are still needing common na direct materials. No? Kumaga, non-proportional siya with the two alternatives. Okay? So, you still need this material. Next, direct labor. Siyempre, may machine ka. So, mababawasan ka ng direct laborer kasi may machine na kagawa. So, dito, kay current situation, $40,000 yung gagawa ng tao. Total expenses nila. Pero pag sa new machine na, magiging $25,000 na. So, differential cost nila is $15,000. So, mas nakatibit po tayo with the new machine. Variable overhead, we have 5,000 units at $2 per unit. So, we have the same. No? Irrelevant po siya dito sa case nito. Kasi current situation man o hindi, no? Still, we are needing this variable overhead. Total variable expenses natin is equivalent to 120 for the current situation and then 105 for the situation with the new machines. So, contribution margin natin. So, sa case na ito, mas mataas po yung contribution natin, margin natin with the new machines. That's why we have this differential benefits or increase in terms of benefits na $15,000. Less fixed expense natin, other, we have 62. No? Maalin man sa dalawang to, this is irrelevant na. No? Parehas po silang may expenses na ganito. Okay? Rent on new machine, so you are going to pay 3,000. So this is differential cost na $3,000. Okay? So total fixed expenses natin is between the 62 and $65,000. So net operating income for the current situation, we can only generate $18,000. But for the situation with new machine, we can generate $30,000 to give us a differential benefits of $12,000. So by this case, no, we are going to choose the new machines. So we can efficiently analyze the decision by looking at the different costs and revenues and arrive at the same solution. So net advantage to renting the new machine is we have this $12,000 increase in terms of income. Okay? So total and differential cost approach using the desirable using the differential approach is desirable for two reasons. So first, only rarely will enough information be available to prepare detailed income statements for both alternatives. While minglingly irrelevant costs with relevant costs may cause confusions and distract attentions away from the information that is really critical. Kasi po, dito sa case na to, no, you have to secure niya yung ating relevancy at irrelevancy ng dalawang alternatives or more alternatives. No? So, by that case, you are going to think critically, you are going to see the criticality between the two alternatives or more. No? Kung ito bang mga cost na to is talagang giving an impact to each of or for the both. No? Umaga, they are giving an impact or baka naman they are not totally aware or they are not totally related with the cost. So you have to secure, no, if this information that you are considering part of the expenses is part of the relevant situation, please. Or yung relevant cost natin. No? So, learning objective number 2, so prepare an analysis showing whether a product line or other business segment should be added or dropped. Okay? So, adding and dropping sa reviews na tayo kanina. So, kanina, ang pinag-uusapan natin is relevant at irrelevant cost. Ngayon, let's see another opportunity on making this decision by looking at the adding or dropping segments. One of the most important decision managers make is whether to add or drop a business segment. Ultimately, a decision to add, to drop or an old segment or add new one is going to hinge primarily on the impact the decision will have on net operating income. No? So by this case, you have to secure pa rin yung ating differences between each of the segment. No? So if you are going up, you are obtaining loss, you are obtaining profit pala muna, you are able or you are secured to add segments or to keep the segments. While if you are obtaining based on the calculation, you can obtain only loss or you can drop the segment. So to assess this impact, it is necessarily to carefully analyze the cost. So let's have a given. Due to the declining popularity of digital watches, so Global Company's digital watch line has not reported a profit for several years. So Level is considering discontinuing this product line. So let's see kung paano ba yung so decision rule natin, Level should keep po ito na hindi po should drop, no, should keep the digital watch segment only if its profits will or would increase, no. Kapag tataas po yung profit natin, we can also consider Level to keep the segment. So Level will compare the contribution margin that would be lost with the cost that would be avoided if the line was to drop. So this is the given problem. No? So segment income statement, so digital watches. So our sales will be 500K. So less variable expenses natin from that given. No? We have a total of 200K. So our contribution margin will be 300,000. Less our fixed expenses, no, total of 400K. So our net operating loss will be $100,000. No, dito sa case na to. Pero, let's see pa din, kahit na mukhang drop na to, let's see pa din if, kasi, kumaga ang case na to, loss siya in terms of the whole operations. Pero, meron kasi mga expenses dito na it will be remain. No, it will remain kahit na i-drop mo tong digital watches. Example, yung mga rental spaces, still ganito pa rin yung babayaran natin kasi may iba pa tayong product category. No? Magbabayad ka pa rin ito. So let's see kung paano magiging impact niya if we consider the other latter part. So an investigation has revealed that the fixed general factory overhead and fixed general and administrative expenses will not be affected by dropping the digital watch line. So the fixed general factory overhead and general administrative expenses assigned to this product will be reallocated to other product lines. Yun yung nabanggit ko din kanina na meron ditong expenses na possible hindi kasama or kasama dito. Then once na tinarap natin, still will remain kasi meron tayong iba pang product line. So the equipment used to manufacture digital watches has no resale value or alternative use. So should Lovell retain or drop the digital watch segment? Let's see. So contribution margin loss if digital watches are dropped, we have $300,000 negative. No, mawawalan tayo ng $300,000 contribution margin kasi ito-drop natin ito. No, less fixed expenses that can be avoided. Ito lang yung mga pwede natin ma-avoid kapag binarap natin yung ating digital watches. Salary of the line manager kasi sila lang yung matatanggal. Advertising direct to that product, 100K. And rent factory space for that specific area lang na 70,000. So we have a total of $260,000. So net disadvantage po natin is $40,000. So let's look at the second approach naman. No, di pa tayo tapos. So this is the comparative income approach if we are going to keep or drop the digital watches. So if digital watches line is dropped, no, ito na yun. So we have difference. No? Ito wala talaga siyang nakadrop na yung ating digital watches. Wala siyang sales, wala siyang variable expense. No? The only thing that will be remain is yung other fixed expenses natin. No? Which is yung 60,000 general factory overhead natin. So it will be remain so a total of. Then we have this 50,000 depreciation for those investment and assets. Okay. Then total general admin expense we have 30,000, so a total of negative 140,000 kapag nag-drop daw tayo ng digital watches. While this is the initial stage na keep in terms of keeping these digital watches na 100,000. As you can see, we have the difference between the two alternative na negative $40,000 na loss. No. The complete comparative income statement revealed that Lovell would earn $40,000 of the additional profit by retaining the digital watch line. No. So, as you can see then, obviously, sa dalawang alternative na to, mas malaki po yung impact sa atin ng negativity in terms of dropping the digital watches kasi nga meron tayong ibang expenses na will still remain. So, mas maganda pa rin na i-keep pa rin natin ito sa digital watches part of the ating product mix. No? Okay? So, beware of allocated fixed cost. So, why should we keep the digital watches segment when it's showing 100,000 loss? No? The answer lies in the way we allocate common fixed cost to our product. Kasi kanina, mapapansin natin yung mga fixed cost na natin is we have lot of fixed expenses na na-allocate. Since then, we start the job, we start that segment na naka-generalize. So meaning, kung initially pala, simulan natin yung ating segment with a different or specific segment fixed cost, no, it can be or we can drop it independently. Kaso dahil contributing siya sa ad product mix natin, so we can still remain them, no, we can still keep them, no, just for the stability purpose na lang. So including an unavoidable common fixed cost makes the product line appear to be unprofitable. So our allocations can make a segment look less profitable than it really is. Okay. Turning objective number 3, so prepare a make or buy analysis. So kung kanina meron tayong adding a set and keeping or dropping segment, and then previously meron din tayong relevant cost and irrelevant cost. So dito, pag-usapan naman natin yung cases na if we are going to produce it by our own or i-outsource na lang ba natin siya or bibili na lang ba natin siya externally. Okay? So, let's have the make or buy decision. So, when a company is involved in more than one activity in the entire value chain, it is vertically integrated. No? So, ito yung tinatawag nating vertical integration na sinasabi natin. No? Kumaga, when a company is totally competent from those requirements, no, totally competent siya na kaya niya ma-provide itong activity na to within that value chain section, no, kumbaga any requirement, any customer demand is kaya niyang gawin, no, by not asking kung bibilin ba natin siya sa labas or by not asking if we are going to ask for a service provider to make this to us. So this is a kind of vertical integration na, okay, but our company can do it alone. Our company can do it independently. We can cover it independently. We can cover it all. No, we are totally competent from our capacity, so we can drive those value on our single section of the value chain. Okay, so a decision to carry out one of the activities in the value chain internally rather than to buy externally from a supplier is called make or buy decision. So vertical integration, so smoother flow of parts and materials. Kasi nga, syempre, lahat ng resources tayong gagawa. So lahat ng resources sa atin din manggagaling. No? Next, but better quality control. Kasi ikaw na nakakita ng operations kung ikaw na lahat ng gagawa niyan. So meaning, you can also your own control to increase the quality. Then lastly, realize patterns. No? Kumbaga, hindi ka na magkakaroon ng hidden charges. No? Kasi kapag bumili ka sa iba, hindi mo alam kung saan galing yung mga materials na yun at magkano yung mga yun. So, bibilin mo na lang kasi yung product nila as a whole. Now, kapag ginawa mo, alam mo kung saan galing yung mga resources natin, kung magkano yun. Alam mo kung paano natin lalagyan or paano natin i-generate yung traffic. Okay? So, vertical integration disadvantage. Companies may fail to take advantage of suppliers who can create economies of scale advantage. No? So, by this case, you can also reject those competent suppliers then. No? Yun yung mga economies of scales advantage, yung tinatawag natin na specialized suppliers o yung mga capables nila. Kumbaga, sila specialized for having this semicon industry. So, dahil ikaw na lahat na mag-provide, hindi mo na kayang maka-request for those specialized suppliers, for those specialized service providers, or for those specialized sections. But because you are taking all from your own. No? So while the economics of scale factor can be appealing, a company must be careful to retain control over activities that are essential to maintain its competitive position. No? Kasi nga, si company, by your own management, you can control lahat. No? Kasi ikaw na din lahat yung gagawa. So, to make or buy decision, an example, Essex company manufactures part for A that is used in its product. So, the unit product cost is a total of $30. No, coming from the direct materials, variable overhead, direct labor, depreciation equipment, supervisor salary, and so on. No? So to make or buy decisions, so the special equipment used to manufacture a part for A has no resale value. The total amount of general factory overhead which is allocated on the basis of direct labor hours would be unaffected by this decision. So that the $30 unit product cost is based on the 20,000 parts produced each year. An outside supplier has offered to provide 20,000 parts at a cost of $25 per part. Now, should we accept the offer from the suppliers? So let's see. So this is the opportunity coming from make, and then this opportunity coming from buy. So we have this outside purchase. We have 25 times the 20,000. We have 500,000 total cost for buying if we are going to consider buying that product. But pag ginawa natin siya, this is our expenses. No? We have direct materials, a total of 180K, direct labor 100K, 20,000 for the variable overhead. No. Then depreciation on equipment, so walang nabanggit, so wala sa given, so maybe it is not totally related with the product, no? Then supervisor salary, $40,000, and then general factory overhead, so wala tayo nito. So a total of $340,000. So by this case, given na obviously, we are considering to make it alone na lang, no? Kaya na lang yung magawa kasi bibilin natin siya. Kasi kita niya naman sa gastos, napakalaki na differences. So avoidable costs associated with making part or A include direct materials, direct labor, variable overhead, and supervisors' salary. So the depreciation of equipment is a sunk cost. Yun pala yun, no? Sunk cost pala siya. Yeah, we cannot consider it part of the each of the product total cost. Okay? So not avoidable, irrelevant. Irrelevant po pala itong ating general factory overhead. So if the product is scrapped, it will be reallocated to the other product. So should we make or buy? So SF should continue to make the part. X is opportunity cost. Aware naman lang tayo dito, no? Opportunity cost, it's a foregone cost or foregone benefit that we can obtain by choosing another opportunity. No? Okay? The opportunity cost is the benefit that is foregone as a result of the pursuing some course of action. Okay? So wala po siyang given example. No? The learning objective number 4. So prepare an analysis showing whether a special order should be accepted. So kanina si make or buy. No, ngayon let's consider naman if we are going to consider special order. So ito yung mga tinatawag natin na special order, meaning we are looking, no, kung meron na tayong specific process, streamlined operations na, no, but we are still looking or we are requesting or outsourcing some of the special orders or service provision from the special technical people or technical service providers. No? Special order, if we are going to consider that part of the line or part of the requisition. Kumbaga, it is a kind of sudden instances na nagkulang tayo sa resources. So, a special order is a one-time order that is not considered part of the company's normal ongoing business. Kumbaga dito, ito yung mga cases na okay, nagkaroon tayo sa resources, nagkaroon tayo ng natural calamity, nagkaroon tayo ng impact with the let's say, yung example ko kanina, nag-pandemic, nagkakaubusan tayo sa materials. If you are going to have that kind of special order, so it can be considered part of the operations. So when analyzing a special order, only the incremental costs and benefits are relevant. No? So, aware naman tayo kung relevant or incremental cost before, no? We are computing it for us to see the advantage or the potential impact it to our normal operations. Okay? So, let's have this example. So, Jet Incorporated makes a single product whose normal selling price is $20 per unit. So, a foreign distributor offers to purchase 3,000 units for $10 per unit. Okay? So this is a one-time order that would not affect the company's regular business. The annual capacity is 10,000 units, but Jet Incorporated is currently producing and selling only 5,000 units. Should Jet accept the offer? So let's have the calculation before we decide na. So we have this revenue, 5,000 po yung ating units times our selling price na $20. So let's compute for the incremental in benefit natin. No? So we have $100,000 total. So we have variable expenses or variable cost natin na total of $40,000. So we have this contribution margin coming from the differences between the two. Then fixed cost po natin is $28,000 plus $20,000, a total of $48,000. So net operating income would be $12,000. No? So nakuha natin tong 40,000 variable cost at $8 variable cost then from the given. No? So now, so ito yung special order case. Ito yung normal case. No? Special order. If Jet accept the special order, the incremental revenue will exceed the incremental cost. No? In other words, net operating income will increase by $6,000. No? Kasi po, no? This suggests that Jet should accept the order. Kasi increase of revenue natin, we have 3,000 no? From the special orders. No? Kasi ito po yung ating case kanina na we have a foreign distributor, yung ating special order service provider natin na 3,000 units for that $10 per unit. No, it is on our normal selling price, we can only get this net operating income of $12,000, or in terms of contribution margin, we have $60,000. Okay. So, if we are going to obtain these special orders, we can increase in terms of revenue na 3,000 times $10, we have $30,000. Increase in cost of 3,000 times variable cost natin coming from here, no? 5,000. Now, 40,000 divided by the 5,000, we can get this variable cost that we can use this to this increase in cost. 3,000 times $8 variable cost for us to consider the normal selling point or normal case. Our increase in terms of net income will be $6,000. No? So, the first thing we need to do is to get these normal expenses or financial income statement natin. No? So, for us to get this net operating income. Then afterwards, we have to compute for the variable cost rate nila using the total variable cost divided by the units demand. Then, by that, we can get this increase in terms of revenue and then increase in terms of cost using the variable cost rate, then increase in terms of net income. These answers assume that the fixed costs are unavoidable then, and the variable marketing cost must be incurred on the special order. No? So by this case, we can accept the offer. No? Kasi po, we have this 6,000 increase in terms of net income. No? Kahit na meron tayong fixed cost, unavoidable daw siya kasi nga mag-accept man tayo of special orders o hindi, still, yun pa rin po yung expenses natin with the cost. So that's the reason why we only generate the variable cost. Next, determine the most profitable use of the constraint resource. So by the way, before we proceed, patapos na din naman pala. Question po. So parang mapapansin nyo, may ikot yung klase natin from the detailed discussion of the chapter 1 calculations. Meron tayong relevant cost, meron tayong profit, make or buy analysis or decision making. No? So question. Do we have any question? May clear naman ba tayo? Question? So we have remaining. Okay. Okay. Okay, good. So let's have this determine the most profitable use of the constraint resource. No. So let's have categories or let's have differentiate muna between the constraint and the bottleneck. So Kapag sinabi natin constraint, may na limited resources at that some type restricts the company's ability to satisfy demand, the company is said to have a constraint. Meaning, kay constraint, we're looking at uh, the production capacity. No? Kumbaga, it is it is the own capacity of any operations, no, to meet that demand. Halimbawa, yung constraint mo is currently, yun yung tipong ang demand mo is to create 1,000 units per day. Pero yung capacity mo, kasi yung machine mo can only create 800 units per day. So the constraint will be the machine. No? Hindi po siya considered a bottleneck. No? Hindi po siya considered bottleneck kasi nga siya po ay we're talking about the maximum capacity na. While the bottleneck, the machine or process that is limiting overall output is called bottleneck, is a constraint. Kumbaga, nagkaroon tayo ng mga issue kay machine. Halimbawa, bumaba yung capacity rate niya na up to 90% na lang sa halip na ma-meet niya yung total maximum, yung maximum capacity niya na 800 units per day, only 600 na lang kasi nagkaroon ng maintenance issues. Or maybe, in terms of laborer, no, nagkaroon tayo ng issues with the laborer. Hindi nakapasok yung 5 tao. Nagkaroon tayo ng limits. Or nagkaroon tayo ng, constraint pala yun kapag hindi nakapasok yung tao. No? Kapag nagkaroon tayo ng delay, nagkaroon tayo ng bottleneck, if this manpower is performing waste, yun yung mga kind of non-utilized talents, overproduction, or extra motions, extra movement, transport, too much transport, no? Kumbaga, they are performing a lot of waste. Okay? So, utilization of constrained resource. So, fixed costs are usually unaffected in this situation. So, the product mix that maximizes the company's total contribution margin should ordinarily be selected. While a company should not necessarily promote those products that have the highest unit contribution margins. No. Kumbaga, ang main point naman dito kay constraint resource natin, yung utilization natin kay constraint resource is you have to look at initial state of contribution margin. No? You have to consider those fixed costs and maximize it using to the or aligning with the contribution margin, no? And then you have to consider also which is the highest contribution margin among those alternative kasi kumbaga we have this different capacity integration or capacity analysis, so you have to priority kung sino ba yung high level o high impacting resource muna. Kasi constraint na nga tayo dun sa ating capacity, nagkaroon na natin ng constraint with our production capability. So, for us to meet or for us to maximize the revenue, you have to consider the highest impact muna with the total revenue, which is through the emphasis of the contribution margin. So, inside, company produces 2 products. Selected data are shown below. So we have product 1 and product 2. Product 1 and product 2. So selling price per unit. So we have $60 for product 1 and product 2 we have $50. Less variable expense. So mataas po yung ating variable expense per unit natin for product 1 and then mas mababa kay product 2. So by that case, we can have higher contribution margin by product 1. No? Okay? Then, current demand per week natin is we have 2,000 and then demand natin for the product 2, we have 2,200. So, contribution margin ratio natin is 40% for the product 1 and 30% for the product 2. Okay? So, processing time required on machine A1 per unit is $1, 1 minute, and then for the product 2, we have 0.5 minutes. So, by this case, makikita niyo na mas mabilis po yung processing time natin kay product 2. No? So, mas marami siyang mapoproduce at any given time kaysa kay A1. Okay? Product 1. Okay? So, machine A1 is constrained resource and is being used at 100% of its capacity. There is excess capacity on other machines. So, machine A1 has a capacity of 2,400 minutes per week. Yun yung capacity niya. So, should Ensign focus its effort on product 1 or product 2? So, let's see. So, we have the product 1, we have $24 contribution margin per unit divided by the 1 minute, no? We have $24. Okay? Then for product 2, we have $30. So, by this case, kasi nga mas mabilis po sa product 2, you have to prioritize yung product 2 over the product 1. Okay? Kasi mas mataas yung contribution margin. So, Ensign can maximize its contribution margin by first producing product. So, remaining couple of minutes. So, I think we can finish. So, allotting our constrained resource, we have this 2,200 units times our capacity for the product 2. We have 0.5 minutes. Total time required to make, we have for product 2, just to meet this total units is we can have this 1,100 minutes. Now, yung total time available po natin is 2,400 minutes. So, yung total na nagamit natin for the product 2, we have this 1,100 minutes. So, our time available for product 1 will be 1,300 minutes. So, we can create pa or allocate pa for the product 1. Okay? So, by this case, we can get this product kasi ang total requirement natin for product 1 is 2,000. So, for the production of product 1, we can only produce 1,300 units. Pero, at least na maximize po natin yung total revenue natin kasi nga, mas na-priority natin yung mas mataas yung contribution margin per minute. So, by this case, we have a total contribution margin of 64,200 coming from the given calculation. Okay? So, learning objective number 6, determining the value of obtaining more of the constrained resource. So, value of constrained resource, increasing the capacity of constrained resource should lead to increase production. Sales, no? Kapag ka nagkaroon tayo in terms of capacity increase, and when we allocate more or when we focus more on terms of utilization of this constrained resource, no? Kagaya ng kanina, we focus more in terms of those who have constrained resource, and then we respond it in terms of which we can get, which we can provide, which will provide more contribution margin. So you can increase in terms of sales. But in terms of units, if you focus more to those faster running operations, you can increase the production. No? How much should Ensign be willing to pay for an additional minute for AI machine time? So, additional machine time would be used to make more units of product one, which had contribution margin per minute of $24. So, Ensign should willing to pay $24 per minute. Okay. So, managing constraints. So, actually, more on of the terminology. So, it is often possible for the manager to increase the capacity of the bottleneck, which is called relaxing the constraint in numerous. No, kumbaga ito lang naman just to generalize, no, it is all about on how we respond the bottleneck naman. So, under the theory of constraint, no, we are going to increase the overtime, number one. No, for us to overcome with the bottleneck, was most probably magkakaroon tayo ng increase in terms of overtime, magkakaroon tayo ng subcon, no, for the extra processing, no, which is another cost, investing for additional machines, which is kind na para lang ma-eliminate natin bottleneck na to, no, para bumilis yung proseso, you have to increase the capacity or increase the production capacity. Next is shifting of workers for non-bottleneck processes. Kumbaga, itong bottleneck process na to, babawasan mo siya ng resources and you will be going to shift it to another resources for us to generate more value. No? Kasi maybe a possible bottleneck is overproduction, over utilization, allocation of the resources. And then, focusing business process improvement efforts on the bottleneck. And then lastly, reducing defective units processed through the bottleneck. Then lastly, for the remaining 6 minutes, prepare an analysis showing whether joint product should be sold at the split of point or process further. So lastly, ito yung joint cost natin. So in some industries, a number of end products are produced from a single raw material input, or two or more products produced from common input are called joint input. And then the point in the manufacturing process where each joint product can be recognized as a separate product is called the split of point. No? Kumbaga yung point na to, we have the common inputs. Then afterwards, we can create more segment of product, which is under na ng split point. And then between them, we have so-called the joint cost. No, we have the common input, and then by that we can example. No, alam mo ang common input natin is gatas. No, by that case, you can create butter, you can create a butter product, you can create cheese product, or some of the sabihin natin yogurt product together with milk, or some of the product which is coming from the single input, which is milk. Okay? So this is example. Gasolina naman our fossils example. So by these fossils, we can have this common production process. Then this is the split of point. So we can create by the given input, we can create oil, we can create gasoline, we can create cars. So this is a kind of joint products. No. So between them, no, we can get this joint cost. So are incurred up to the split of point. Okay. So by this case, we can also get this final sales. So imagine we have the single entry point but multiple products. So that's the reason why tinawag siyang joint products. No. The pitfalls of allocation joint costs are traditionally allocated among different products at the split of point. So a typical approach is allocate joint costs according to relative sales values of the end product. So although allocation is needed for the sum purpose such as balance sheet, inventory valuation, allocation of this kind of are very dangerous for decision making. Kasi nga dito, no, dito kay joint products natin, we cannot consider part siya ng kumaga as a normal cases with the balance sheet before, no? Kumaga we are considering different raw materials, work in process, and then finished goods. Dito sa case na to, we can have a very dangerous or criticality in terms of categorization because we only have one input. So in terms of raw materials, you only have a general input. No? By that case, you have to create more income statement. No? Not just a single income statement together with this joint products. Kasi meron po tayong iba't ibang product. No? Though we have only a single raw materials. So that's the reason why kahit na single raw material siya, we need to secure the measure between each of the split of point. Okay. Then, lastly, joint costs are irrelevant in decision regarding the 6 pa ba? Sige pa, alam ko. Thank you. Sige. To product split of point forward, therefore, this cost should not be allocated to the end products or decision-making purposes. With respect to the sale process further, kumbaga, ito yung case lang class na meron tayong sample with the milk product, no? Alam ba, joint input natin is milk product lang, no? If we are going to consider that milk product, or if we are going to sell it on individual basis, or if we are going to consider it under the different product pa ba na, let's say we have the butter, we have this cheese, we have this other product pa, no? So it's a matter of considering those expenses and also sales. For example, we have the lumber and sawdust, which is coming from the lumber, no? You have to consider the differences between the sales and also the expenses. We have the 270, 176, and 50. And then for the sawdust, no? Based on the requirement, we have 50, 24, and 20. No? Kumbaga parang single, kumbaga pag lumber ba or pag lumber ba, we are going to sell na ba lahat yan, or we can consider for the other product pa. Let's say for the milk, no? Input lang natin is gatas. We are going to consider na ba, or we are going to sell it na ba lahat for the milk powders or milk products natin, or we are still going to consider other products pa din, no? For us to generate more value. No? So lastly, analysis sell or process further, we have, so from the given point kanina, so as you can see, we have lumber, it will generate a total profit of $80, and then negative or loss of, for the sawdust of $10. So meaning, by this case, you have to consider na ibenta na lang lahat kay lumber. Okay? So the lumber should be processed further and the sawdust should be sold at the split of 1. Okay? So lastly, activity-based costing relevant costs, so should be can be used to identify potential relevant costs for decision-making purposes. Kasi dito kay activity-based costing, those unmeasurable or those indirect and supporting expenses can be part of the relevant cost. No? So you have to consider, you have to create activity base for those supporting expenses or indirect expenses for us to create decisions. So yun lang naman yung sinasabi. So, thank you. As question pala. So, we ended up with chapter 13. So, question. Ano na mag-isa dito? Okay. So, class, do we have any questions?
Wala naman po, sir.
Okay, sige. If wala na questions, class, I think nakuha ko na yung ako full of 3 minutes nyo, no? So, thank you for attending my class. Doon nag-extend tayo ng a couple of minutes. So, I hope everyone have a safe and great weekend ahead, no? Mag-iingat po kayong lahat. So, thank you for attending my class. See you next week for our chapter 14 and 15. So, which is mas konti na lang compared to today, no? So, thank you for attending my class. Mag-iingat po kayo. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you po, sir. Ingat din po.
Thank you.